In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced. Okay, so welcome everyone. I felt I should give a lecture now. I am sleep deprived, but that's okay. Is the finale where attention goes? That sentence rose to me. The moment it arose to me, it took me to a view in my inner realms that I I began seeing pretty much like the conclusion of all my efforts as a being in this lifetime. Could it just be where the attention goes next? And in some sense, why is the past important? Three questions to be asked. Why is the past important? Why is the present important? Why is the future? You know, in the subtitle I've written, to yourself a superhero and to others a supervillain. Is the finale where attention goes? So let me begin by saying that one of the most fascinating questions I've had in this life is I've always wanted to know what is actually happening out of everything that I want. You know, that means would you rather have $1 billion? Would you rather have a Bugatti, have like endless assets, have power, status, legacy, all of this? Or that was the one door, and imagine the other door was truth. You got to see what the truth of the world and all of us being here was about. You see, what's interesting and what the viewers should consider valuable about this lecture is that you are a soul has decided to communicate to the species. Now, it is clear to me that how I see something, like if you put like if two people, like if a bunch of different people go to the Louvre in Paris and they go and see the Mona Lisa, like one person's gonna be like, "Yo, she's smiling." One person's gonna be like, "Nah, she's irritated for like sitting there for hours." You know, and so two different people saw two different meanings. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important for us to consider that the world we're in right now is a world that initially for the human experience it starts kind of like one-sided. So this is the cool thing, and you know what's very interesting, right? I was such a shy person in my youth that just the fact that I've managed to notice something like this is interesting. But um, pretty much we are under the impression that the world is one, shaped, and two, it is shaped for us. So let me tell you that in the same way they talk about like how the amygdala in the brain, like at the stem of your brain, there's your amygdala, this ancient part of your brain, okay, which is there for fight or flight, okay. Now I firmly believe there's a part of our brain that is there for, how do I say it, navigating the attention to just the inner realm, pretty much. Pretty much how are we giving it meaning? For me, everything is arising from meaning. The reason I'm giving this talk is because I see meaning. Now, yes, this meaning has arisen from me, but because the reason is like because I speak about what fascinates me. Even though we consider people to be individuals, as if one entity, okay, when we look at a person, we're like, okay, that's one person. But I think a better way of acknowledgement is that a human being is a system, okay, and there's elements to the system, and how these elements interact with one another is important. For me personally, there is an existential server in regards to just wondering about what your original attention has access to. All right, folks. Let me see what I can say. I try to relate. I try to relate to the human species. I was born in 1991 here. But as a human being, I have noticed that the human being is in the game of perception. And what one finds in the human perception is human and dehumanized archetypes. Okay. We find forms that can be humanized and forms that cannot be humanized. Okay. For example, right now, the civilization's psychological safety is just firmly built on this fact that the human species has stepped out of the food chain and we're safely in the human kingdom, even though it's invisible. Like the thing is, that's the thing about nations, borders, you know. You know, where does human attention go? And future generations may be listening to this lecture and they're like, dude, describe your environment so we can know exactly what timeline we're from. What is there to really say? See, I'm just saying that my whole life I was conditioned to make what's in my attention important, and now I'm understanding that attention itself is important. This might be a strange sentence, but your when your awareness advances, your grip on your own eyes. To me, I have understood that in my youth, I was conditioned to believe that I need to be savage to survive. I need to be savage to succeed. Every day I wake up and I wonder, like, okay, what is my attention doing? Why am I being, you know, no, an energy, And they say energy can't be created or destroyed, but we all fear death because really what the human experience is, it's a state of consciousness. So it's like I could put a here, I'll bring the notepad. All right. So this is the lecture. Yo, this font is so bad. Size. Okay. Now, Okay, sorry about that. To continue. Guys, I gotta somehow explain these to you. This is my method. Look at its elements. And we share the deep vision that's behind it, actually. So we come here and say system. Oh my god, system. So we treat it as a system. We look at the elements. Now we ask, what what are the important okay, now we wonder about what elements. So this is one element. Is another element where attention goes. So has 5 elements. What do we mean by is? For this, I should have probably. Excuse me. And the point of this method is to pretty much see what content immediately your mind found the moment you saw the sentence. I'll tell you. I'll show you. And then we have those. Now, I could have made it simpler and said just like where attention goes as one. But anyways, so what do we mean finale, the conclusion of life? Of the conclusion. Okay. What do we mean by where? So is the finale where attention goes? The location? What do we mean by attention? Attention is main direct conscious viewer. Another way I could say it is what is looking out through your eyes. So here, what it means by where does attention goes? It means relocate. So first things. So when I since these were the first views, answers to these questions that came from my mind. So I write those down, right? And now, because we've turned it, okay, now to me, I can the sentence. I can, in some sense, say that is the finale where attention goes. Okay, and let me just simplify this. I could say attention is even life. So I'll come here and say, what is the true conclusion of the final location that the conscious viewer relocates. So I can extract this kind of sentence. So the question evolved, just like how Charizard, no, Charmander to Charmeleon. Like right now, we started from is the finale where attention goes, and to me, I have found them that sentence evolved to what is the true conclusion of the final location that the conscious viewer locates, or arrives. So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess it's about choice, and I feel we as human beings have to choose. Everybody I know is identifying specific content in their attention. I don't see a lot of beings identifying with attention. to some degree, it's very obvious that this world has no solution. We see it as a problem. It's intentionally designed to be incomplete. The system admin of this system, this defined surveillance state and testing zone, in the simulated testing zone, the system admin's like, all right, human species, I'm going to show you how complicated the biological body is, but I'm not going to show you, let's say, beyond the atmosphere. I'm not going to show you, like, the unobservable universe. So we have to really be careful that what's going on Earth is actually there was just an objective program. This objective program managed to access a subjective program simultaneously as it was objective, and then it managed to realize it's neither the subjective. So I'll give you an example. It's like imagine the first human beings, they were like this energy, or let's say the human being is like this energy. The energy first it thought it was the environment, and it's like, no, I'm not the environment. I can move in the environment, and then thought it was just something that was moving in accordance with the environment, and then it was like, no. And so there was an objective awareness, but then there came a subjective awareness. Okay. So what I'm saying is that what you're really seeing is that layers are being added throughout history. And who you think you are so simply is actually a very layered being. Let me tell you what this talk is about, okay? It has two sides, right? These talks are like two sides of a coin, okay? Of this lecture. So, one is that this is the deep part where I don't know, guys. There's some nights I just have this feeling like I have no clue what happens, and I have this incredible uncertainty for everything that is happening. Okay, and so my mind is overthinking. In some sense, fill that void of the uncertainty with, in some sense, some sort of conscious free will retaliation. But when you realize all human consciousness is a retaliation to uncertainty, that human beings, they think their intelligence is logical, but it is not. It is all in regards to response to an environment, but the environment is internal. So you have an objective being suddenly start identifying as a subjective being. Right now, we look at human beings and we think like we're not cyborgs, but we technically are linguistic cyborgs, and it's a kind of a strange thought, but we have to accept the reality. Like if we were just like silent creatures that didn't speak, we were unified, but we didn't speak. We had no language, no books, no writing, no inventions. We were just living like Tarzan. You know, I'm gonna talk about the subtitle and then I'm gonna finish with the main title because the main title is very deep if I get into it. I'm not sure. So in the subtitle, I've written to yourself a superhero and to others a supervillain. And this has been a late it has been lately a concern of mine that I have been like, okay, I'm opening my eyes in the morning, and I am living in accordance to my inner realms, and I'm trying at my best at first to see the information before having an opinion on it, right? And then seeing like its geometry, and then releasing my emotions once I've properly contextualized like the geometry of what I mean by this is that in this lifetime, um, human beings are creatures that I think if you're just born, let's say you have a name, you have a speed, and you're like a young person, you're gonna feel a void in your life, okay? And that void, okay, is filled by what? By the vision of purpose. So you need to find purpose. Now the question is, the purposes are based on our inner realms or are they based on our outer realms? After some point you just find a comfort with being. Do you know what it is? It's like, let me tell you what's hilarious. First of all, there's 8.1 billion human beings on earth right now. That means there's 8 billion physical humans on earth. 8.1 billion. Okay. Now that what does that also mean? That simultaneously means there's 8.1 billion minds. And now if you ask, the educational system taught you everything, there was one thing they couldn't teach you. And it's also the one thing that you can't like put on a table. You know what I mean? They can't teach you your mind. They pretty much told you you have a mind. You stopped caring about philosophy. You thought the real world was just what was, in your range of physical awareness. On some level, we human beings can ignore like the challenges of tomorrow, but eventually the future generations have to handle it so we can handle it. To me, I have asked myself, like, what am I doing in this lifetime? Okay. And so I've realized there's the ontology and the epistemology. The epistemological dimension is that based on how capable I have been as an organism, as a being, to be able to notice what reality actually is and to somehow communicate that to others. Because really, I'm starting to realize, I mean, I've realized late bloomer to this realization, but it is very clear that the next great chapters of, let's say, the human species, the next great chapters of the human species are, how do I explain it to you? We open our, okay, since childhood, okay, we're conditioned, okay, and we enter this reality where we first coordinate ourselves physically, objectively. We notice we're separate, we notice our reflection in the mirror, we notice our individual position in regards to the name they use to communicate to us, and then we go on being this character, and this character identifies simultaneously as a body. So what's going on really on earth is that you have 8.1 billion physical organisms that every moment they wake up and they're consciously active, their brain is simultaneously projecting a subjective simulation of what the force of the moment, let's say, happens as. right? I don't know how to say it, but to me, it's all about movement. To me, you don't understand. They call it different names, but think of it this way: all the words in the world are hiding something behind the world. They're hiding something. Imagine every word, every concept, every idea, everything that is like the branches of knowledge. Okay, you know what the trunk of the roots of knowledge are in the unknown. That means human beings have understood that there's limitations. If Earth was a video game, there's certain parts of this video game that we can't have access to. Only the system admin has. To me, I am in an unknown system. I am in an unknown world. The greatest realization of my lifetime was this. There was nothing more liberating and enlightening, right? You just look at this life and you just think about every way you have treated others and every way others have treated you in this whole span of this lifetime. You know? And to me, it comes to the conclusion, this is going to sound hilarious, but like all the different perspectives, all the different views, all the, treasures of knowledge hunting I've done, okay? It's come to this conclusion that first you got to be conscious of what is from you being added to the moment and what is the moment, okay? And if you can discriminate, if you can distinguish between these two, then you become free of yourself. You become free of wanting the moment to make sense when we're in an unknown world. Do you know? I think having the world to make sense all the time in an unknown world is kind of like, first of all, chaos. Okay, that means look at what's going on. Um, Pretty much human beings first entered the world, okay, and when they entered this world they didn't know what's going on. That's such a crucial point, okay? Our ancestors, here, I'll write it down. Let's just make points. Our ancestors didn't know anything, didn't know what world they had arrived in, okay? So whoever's listening, okay, there's so many people out there, all right, and I'm that human being on this planet telling you that there's so many different schools of thought, so many different banners being held. I am holding the banner for the what I don't know how to tell you, if there's one, like the role I'm fulfilling in this lifetime is that human being keeping the archetype of advancement alive. Okay, to me, one of the biggest clues, the only thing that's actually kept me here, right, in this lifetime, right, is just that, why did the system admin give me a user in this lifetime a vision of the future? Like, why do we have minds that can imagine flying cars, but we don't have flying cars now? So I was like, whoa, it's like all those people who unfortunately have, how do I explain it? Like, it's very tragic, there's suffering everywhere. Do you know? But I'm telling you, it's strange that there is self-simulated suffering and then there's actual physical suffering. Do you know? And I'm just telling you, when you can discriminate between your inner realms and outer realms, you control the context of meaning, okay? Rather than letting the world control you. So I don't know. There's like again, there's 8.1 billion people on this planet. Now, how many of them realize that when they open their eyes in the morning and they're like, yo, man, I'm in the same world as everybody else? Yes, physically we are, subjectively we are not. What I'm trying to tell you is in front of your eyes, you find an external realm filled with shapes and forms and objects. Okay. But how these objects have a meaning, have a value, that is an inner activity. So what we're noticing is that our mind is generating meaning to the forms that our body finds. To the forms our body finds. Okay. So this is like a very important thing, because when I say is the finale where attention goes, like if you look at every finale of every show you've seen or everything in your life, like people are like, I'm this, I'm that, they're identifying with the contents of their moment, but I don't know how to explain it, that it's kind of like the mere it, like if somebody tells me what is conscious existence like, it's like I'm waiting for completion. So I will say conscious existence is like waiting for completion. So to consciously exist, I don't know how to explain it. Think of it this way. Sometimes I feel the outer realms is imagination that you don't have to imagine. If there's a lot happening in your outer realms, then it's as if like you're probably not a creative person. I don't know how to explain it. Do you know what I mean? Like the thing about it is, think of it this way. If somebody wants anything, if I want a Bugatti, if excuse me, not a Bugatti. Let's say I want a verb. Let's say I want an experience. Let's say I want an experience of driving a Bugatti. Okay? Now, one way is to go and actually physically try to figure out like how to find a Bugatti. Probably like there's a rental or something. Do you know? Or I just, while in this exact moment, I just close my eyes and just imagine, based on all the information I've had and all I've seen about a Bugatti and all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? So my mind can give me like maybe 60% of an actual experience, but it's not an actual experience. So what I mean is, I can see, this might sound strange, but for consciousness, if it's in a conditional situation, I think life is all about reaching checkpoints. I don't know how to say it. Like when I look at humans, like I say, like that sentence is so strange. Like anybody says that sentence. I'm just saying, when I look at my species, when I look at all of us as human beings, I'm like, yo, what are we all doing here? And then I'm like, oh yeah, every person is living in their own like sphere of meaning, in their own sphere of reality. Very rarely do they see others. Do you know why in the downtown areas of the most busiest cities, there's like homeless people asking for money, and there's like the wealthiest successful businessmen not giving anything passing by? Do you know why? Because everybody is prioritizing where their attention is, or where their attention is going, because it's not real. Like right now, there's war going on a planet, and how real is it for the species? The messed up stuff that happened in Gaza. Do you know what I mean? The messed up stuff that's happening in Iran. Do you know what I mean? That has been happening in Iran for a long time. So we're looking at this world of ours and human beings getting frustrated, and if there isn't a greater guiding force, or if there isn't a greater strategy, like I don't know what's gonna happen. And it's like, this is the bizarre thing, do you know? Because the ethics of everybody is not the same. That's why it's so hard to get world peace. Do you know? Because people can't be content with the same context. It's like we're all in the same world, but the way we experience it is not the same. And however, we have to try to build similar systems and to constantly advance the human experience. That means, like, if somebody's trying to climb a mountain, you know, and if they need help up, like, you can help them up, right? Like, what is that? You just advance that experience. They were this consciousness, they reached the moment, and then you help them, like, advance. You know, for me, I'm more and more as life is going, I'm like, oh my God. They told me, they said go after knowledge. I went after knowledge and I realized it's all just looking at geometry of the past. Like, you know what's funny? I've lived every sort of, this might sound strange, but I feel like I've kind of seen I've figured out the inner realms. And I've like, I like I've reached that point where I know there's more, but that more is from something else. Like, you know what it is? I think every soul feels its destiny, but intentionally it cannot know it. I don't know why this moment, all of it exists. And you know, it's like, imagine they're like, "Yo, who would you be if you had an ego?" I'd be like, "Yo, man, the world exists for me." You know, I'll be a solipsist, you know? To me, the nature of man is, okay, everybody's temporary. Everybody who's telling you right and wrong, what to do, is temporary. Everybody here is legit on a roller coaster ride, and they're all at different like phases of the roller coaster ride. We're all humans, and right now it's so easy to be human because there's nothing trying to dehumanize us. We're just noticing dehumanized ideas for the first time in the global cultural fabric, right? Like, we're reaching that point where, how do I say it? Do you know how people are like, "Yo, man, like extraterrestrial technology or advanced technology"? I'll be like, "Yo, man, the same thing can happen for archetypes." Sometimes I feel it, but it's very strange. Like, I feel in the same way that a person can be advanced, the behavior can be advanced. If behavior can be advanced, then language can be advanced. If language can be advanced, then reality, if language is a reflection of reality, in some sense, reality can be advanced. But to be honest, for me, it's all about power. That means, like, right now, what is the difference between this building I'm seeing and me? Like, this is like, I'm seeing this building, and there's just me here, right? And I'm like, what's the difference? And I'm like, okay, let's start with what's similar. I'll be like, okay, that building's made of atoms. You know, you know, and I'm made of atoms. All right, there we go. It's like, you know, that building is made in the same common existential ground as me. You know, so that's an existential. I'm like, okay, then I look at it, I'm like, okay, the building has a form. All right, I got a form. You know, and then I see that the building has a space where it has so many different rooms. Do you know? And then I asked myself, and I realized I've had so many different moments of life. Legit, I've been through so many different moments of life. And after some point, you're like, okay, should I accept this as just something that's just happening and it's going to finish? And it was just important for me because I was like overreacting, Or was there actually a great strategy that had to be implemented by the human species? Was there something else that we could do now that could be so smart years later? You know, to me, I've realized the most valuable thing in life is attention. Souls are uplifted by attention. Isn't that weird? I think that's like there's something to that. I think that it even like there's something very important behind that, right? That attention energizes the being. Why? Why does attention suddenly, like, somebody in the presence of somebody they like, they behave differently? There's been so many moments in this lifetime that the moment finishes and you just walk somewhere else. And really, there's so many different ways to give this meaning. Like this moment that I'm existing in right now, I could give it meaning from the past. I'll be like, no, everything I'm seeing, it has a specific definition, and I'm living in those definitions physically right now. Right? That's based on the past. That's you're caught by language if you're living in the past. If you're living in the past, then that's your life is kind of like, you know, you're suffering. I don't know. I think to me, it's all about realizing everybody's being a human being for the first time, and everybody has to take it easy. Do you know what I mean? And behind the biological human, okay, there's an unknown life force that's viewing thoughts that are not even physical, and deciding between more than one thought. That's why you can't be a thought. You have more than one. And a thought can't think. Like, that isn't even, like, how have they convinced the species with their thoughts this whole time? Like, crazy. I think the healthiest way to look at it is, and guys, I'm going to pretty much, I guess, end the talk here. Pretty much I showed you the method. Use the same method to do anything. The thing about being a superhero to yourself and a supervillain to others, sometimes you do something that feels right to you. You feel like you should do it, and you do it, right? And later on you realize the value you saw to what you did was from your inner realms. Like there was this video online, okay, that this cat, sorry, not this cat, this baby fell from a balcony. This guy caught the baby and, like, I don't know, broke his finger or something in the process, right? And then the mother that was so careless that the baby had fallen from the balcony took that guy who saved the baby, like, from the sidewalk, that just the baby fell from, like, the first floor of a balcony or something, and it was she took that guy to, like, she took legal action against that guy. And then at the end of it, the court, like, gave the guy, like, the guy won and, like, got compensated somehow, right? Do you know? But it was crazy. Like, it was crazy, the world we live in, that we think, like, TV, we see the show Friends and we're like, yo, man, everybody's human, right? Everybody's capable of having this sense of, like, okay, Like we can look through each other's eyes and comprehend each other's experiences, but not at all. And when a human being doesn't feel understood for years, they have to make a choice. Do I stop caring, or do I continue to care in the hope that like there's something I'm not fully seeing here, right? And the weak-willed will probably want to, it's easier to destroy than to build, guys. Like that's common sense, you know. And to me it's all about advanced civilizational strategy. To me, you don't understand as a soul, right? For me, I come and give these talks, but you don't understand, these talks are like my strategy in my lifetime. I believe every person's lifetime is their greatest strategy of whatever life force they were, and then afterwards they leave. Now the issue is interference, and think of it this way, that they pretty much say in all relationships, there needs to be a sense of safety, respect, okay, and shared meaning. Safety, respect, and shared meaning. Okay, if a human being doesn't feel this, they can't like have a relationship or connect. Now the next thing is we want to get 8.1 billion people, okay, to unite, and when we say we want 8.1 billion people to unite and advance, that means they need to have a relationship. So we need to somehow, like, all those people are like, yo, world peace, world peace. I'll be like, guys, relax. We got to first figure out how do we get 8.1 billion beings, human beings, okay, to feel safe, respected, and all able to share the same meaning. That means we're not stranded in our own worlds. We're all working together in the outer realms to build something greater, right? Do you know? And what they didn't say, like, you don't understand, civilization is so strangely positioned. Even in the educational system, there are departments, the way it's positioned. And I understand in the study, like, there's sociological theories that kind of look at the human, they kind of like fractalize society as, like, how do I say, different parts of a brain. Do you know what I mean? Just like how one part of your brain is like stationed for creativity, one part of it for that, that, da, 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 that. Do you know what I mean? Like how different parts of your like oppositely they correlate. So the left part of your brain moves the right part, like correlates to the right part of your body, and the opposite in all of this. You know, for me, it's how do we get the species to feel safe? Well, the world isn't safe. Well, okay, so that's one problem. Then second thing, how do we get everybody to feel respected? Okay. Well, obviously, people are gonna make respects and make mistakes, and people are gonna laugh and show disrespect, right? You know what I mean? It's like the language of, I don't know, human psyche. Do you know what I mean? It's constantly evaluating itself, but it doesn't understand. Everybody's evaluating everything from their own world, right? Like a comedian, let's say, let's say thousands of people go to see a stand-up comic, okay, and that stand-up comic, does a great show, and then calls their father, and the father's like, son, how was your day, and the son's like, dad, I just, did a sold out show, and I said jokes in front of, like, thousands of people. And the father's like, son, when are you going to stop being a clown? Do you know what I mean? Right. It's completely abstract, I mean, right? And I'm just saying it's like something again that had great value from one angle, from another angle didn't have value, right? And it's so important to find the right angle to acknowledge reality, you know? Like, they call it patience, but patience is just another way of saying it's the buffering time of a human brain to wonder about, okay, what in from what other ways can this moment mean something? because we've been conditioned to concept shift, not context shift. When you context shift, you realize something fascinating. You realize this the human attention can also choose, how do I say it, where the meaning happens. Or like right now, I'm a self, that's a concept, and they're like, okay, what's the context to this self? Right? That's the world. So the world is the context, the self is the concept. Okay? Now I'm saying, what does it mean to context shift? So if the self is the, here, I'll write it here. Okay, so we have self equals concept, and we have world equals context. Okay. Now we can also, yeah. Okay. Now, what is here? Now we are saying, what is concept? So, how do I explain it? Concept shifting is one concept, when one concept, or let me say it, when attention from one concept concept shifting is when the concepts change in one fixed context. There we go. Okay, that's called concept shifting. Okay, and guys, I'm gonna kind of like, I guess, consider these as parts of Mr. Within school of thought, because I've coined these. You might not believe it, but I'm one of those human beings on Earth who has communicated in ways that I feel like no other human being has. And it's refreshing, because I feel like, okay, now I get to see it from a view that it's not looping, you know. So concept shifting is when the concepts change, when the concepts change in one fixed context. That's so key. Okay, the fixed context is key. Okay, now context shifting is when the now this is okay. Context shifting is when one concept or many concepts can have multiple contexts. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So right now I told you self equals context, world equals context. Excuse me, self equals concept, world. Now here the concept is, let's say, person. A person. Okay, that's the concept. And then here I said we can have it with the world. I'm trying to tell you, like, okay, I'm gonna put it me. Okay, so let's use me as the concept. I'm gonna use myself as an example. So I'm this concept, this podcaster concept, in the awareness of the species. Okay, so I'm this one concept, and I'm like, okay, where am I? And I'm like, Earth. Okay, I've been told that this place is Earth. So I'm like, okay, the context is Earth. Okay, so I'm me in Earth. Okay, me on Earth. Now, if I become suddenly something else, okay, it's as if I have shifted my conceptual position in the same world. But if the world changes, if suddenly they teleported me to like Mars, then suddenly in the outer realms the context shifted. So concept shifting and context shifting, guys, these are applicable both to the inner and the outer realms, actually. So they're not just for the inner realms. So both CS, they're both CS. CTS, oh my God, okay. We'll go with the second last letter, okay? CPS and CXS. I think it's easier to remember it that way. Guys, who knows, you know? One day they might be like, yo, this Mr. Within guy, you know, his stuff was on point, you know? And I'll look at them and I'll be like, thanks, guys, but God really knows. To be honest, the system admin is like the most important thing, but the system admin has created us, so to experience this life is the most important thing, actually, to live this life. And it's not just for us. That's the fascinating thing. Realizing that, yes, your mind might be just living for you in accordance to your inner realms, but your presence is for all of life. So they're both applicable to the inner and outer realms. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the interesting thing. In the inner realms, CPS and CXS are strangely unconditional. However, still conditionally limited. So this is the most bizarre thing, okay? The most bizarre thing about our minds is not our imagination, guys. Okay? It's how we can imagine, like I can imagine a fly, like I can imagine like throwing an apple in the air and that apple staying in the air. And the most bizarre thing is not me having imagined the apple in the air. It's the most bizarre thing is that the laws of the outer realms don't apply to that. So let me just keep it at this to not create confusion. In the inner realms, CPS and CR are strangely unconditional. In the outer realms, CPS and CXS are conditional. And that's what's going on Earth. You are responsible in a dualistic world where everything occurs in pairs. Like it comes in opposites, light and day, space and matter, and all of this, right? So we are so excuse me. So we have this inner realms, we have outer realms, okay? In behind our eyes, like the concepts can change, the context can change much quicker, faster, and it's based on how our attention just like instantly brings it forth. I don't know how else to say it, right? And then in the outer realms, it's different. In the outer realms, there requires a journey. So in the outer realms, you know, um, context shifting and concept shifting are conditional and have an opportunity cost. Have a So in the outer realms, it's way harder to change. So I'll give you an example. In the outer realms, I gotta go buy a Bugatti to, like, I don't know, be able to master driving it or something. Do you know? And in the inner realms, I can just imagine myself, drifting with a Bugatti, like Need for Speed to, you know, Tokyo Drift. Anyways, folks, all of this is saying that all of this concept shifting, context shifting, inner realms, outer realms, all of this comes down to the realization that our presence of attention is singular. So something, it's like a singular original moment, is experiencing simulated realities. So my life is the experience of a higher awareness and presence to the moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing to fear if there is such levels of higher power. Guys, I'm going to relax, and I've realized, like, before I get too old, I should probably, like, try to master different art forms. So, anyways, I'm going to try to do new things, guys. You guys should too. But this concept shifting, context shifting, you understand this, you can endlessly articulate everything till the end of time, pretty much. So, and of course, guys, you'll come to the conclusion that there's an unknown original moment that its presence is like there's an original presence to the simulated world and to the simulated selves in that world. And that original presence is from the system admin. What I believe through the theological lens, God commanded man into existence and then um, imbued him with ruh and the essence of his own power. And so to me, I find that to be what God gave us is presence. And when God says in the Holy Quran, um, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the system admin beyond the world room, in the Holy Quran says, the soul is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means the soul is the command of the original being of the system admin. And man knows but little. So in other words, what fits that exact structure? Presence. Our presence, everything we know about our presence is so small, but it is present in somewhere so big that we can never know it. See, right now, vocally, yeah, I'm giving a lecture, but I'm also being an energetic presence in the moment. I don't know how far this energy echoes in the presence of all reality. Anyways, the viewers can write there. I'm very fascinated to know what the viewers think about the titles, and write your views below and answer this question. And hope this was an interesting lecture. Someone in the chat section says endless ripples in the fabric of the unseen now and forever more. Yo, that is a deep, like, last minute comment. Anyways, folks, thank you. The whole point of it is, if life, like, you can live whatever sort of life, at the end of it, you're just tagging along with, you're just going where your attention goes. Then you got to study your attention. You got to realize the nature of my attention, and perhaps being a part of this world, and you observe yourself because you can, and you're a more advanced technology than anything out there. Do you know what I mean? I consider my ability, just the ability of human beings to be way more capable than their instruments. They use their instruments to amplify their own abilities. So I think it's about the nature of attention. And I think the true value of attention is, at some point you're like, okay, so my presence is everything that I'm aware of within my attention. And then a part of you is going to be like, okay, what do I care about? But you're going to realize your soul is caring about what, in every memory, every moment that you've existed in. Do you know? It's like every memory of yourself, there's a part of you that has wondered, like, in that moment, had an evaluation of what it cared for. So at some point, if you really pay attention to your memories, you're going to realize, in all of those memories, behind the scenes, you had a sort of value system, value hierarchy, and there was a prioritization of value. Do you know? And you know what it is? It's very funny, because I don't know if because we're simulated. That means, imagine they put someone, like, they connect someone to a computer. The person's super happy, super peaceful, super gentle, but they're not human anymore. They're not just human. Like, see, and this is where, I don't know. I think the moment we stepped into, the moment we spoke, I think it was destined. Like, there's so many people saying it's conspiracy theories, like, of, like, cultural, like, unnecessary shadow cultural programming. But I'm like, guys, this is a world, yo. We're storytelling over it, okay? And on some level, when they say, oh my God, that's what it means. Sorry, guys, that I asked the question. Like, there was something I was wondering about, like, a few lectures ago. Now I understand what it means. You know why? You know why they happens from inside to outside? Because it's unknown and everybody's storytelling. So the stories are being told from inside to outside. The brain is projecting, it's overlaying the subjectivity onto the objectivity. So the meaning is arising from inside to outside. So guys, you can context shift in your inner your whole inner. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced. May all simulations, the greatness and the true advancement of one that all souls find when they remember the original moment. In honor of the most advanced and the original moment and the original world and the original earth and the original self. Even though we're all simulated here, but we notice the original, and that is very profound and divine. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Thank you for listening.